Welcome, Eydís. I'm so happy to have you here. So we have Eydís Evensen today here, coming all the way from Iceland, right? You came today. And I'm super excited to be starting the podcast Women in Classical again. So this is season 2, actually starting again. And you're the first one on, so I'm really, really happy to have you. We're recording tomorrow for my next album as well together. You've wrote a piece which we're going to perform together. So really excited to have you here today so we can actually discuss and chat on about your career and about generally your life around music. So thank you for being here.
Oh gosh, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor.
So I thought we could start with just a few very short questions, hopefully to get to know you a little bit better for also the other people. So I'll ask a few questions and you just have to pick one of the two answers. Okay? Okay, let's start. Major or minor?
Minor.
Nice. I would have said the same. Okay, orchestra or choir?
Oh, tricky. Choir, I think.
Okay. Studio recording or concert?
Studio recording.
Okay. Let's do one last one. Countryside or city?
Countryside.
Cool. Okay. So I want to start talking about countryside actually. You're from Iceland. I made little bit of research about you. I read a few interviews, and this is obviously not supposed to be an interview, but I was really intrigued by when you talked about, kind of how it came about you starting to play the piano and the inspiration around starting to play music. And you mentioned something about the storms that there were where you were living in Iceland and how there was cut in electricity and water and there was kind of nothing to do. And that's how I don't know, that's moments where you played the piano. I mean, could you tell me a bit more about that? Was this what inspired you to start playing the piano and start composing?
Gosh, well, I have to say to actually start to play the piano. So I have 4 older siblings and they all played the piano when I was growing up. So apparently when I could just stand in my 2 feet when I was like 1 year old or something, I was the most annoying sibling, like always like trying to reach up to the piano. And my siblings were practicing scales and the repertoire and such. But I think the moments, as you're talking about, the storms and the weather conditions in Iceland, because surely in the north of Iceland, you would get like weathered out or like there's a storm for like a couple of days. And like, what do? So you play cards, you play music, we tell stories. So it's all about like storytelling.
It's incredible. It makes me want to be there.
It's really magical. Like my childhood memory of it. Maybe not the best thing today to be like locked out for 2 days. But yeah, the beautiful thing about storytelling is that like by having like a candlelight in the scenery. And my parents used to play a lot of music like growing up. And like my first musical memory was of my mom playing Tchaikovsky, Swan Lake on vinyl. It was actually a storm as well. So I connect a lot of my emotions and my experiences of like the weather towards music because our parents used to do that a lot. And then when I started to write music, it was a crazy storm outside and I had gone through something like a bit difficult for myself. I was 7 years old, but I was so hypnotized by the weather and like the wind, like how it was blowing on the house. And all I remember was just like walking towards the piano and yeah, out came this piece called The Storm, which is my first piece. And ever since I've always like connected my emotions with the weather in Iceland.
And how, I mean, I want to go and listen to this piece now, but how did really this, was there a real connection with the storm? Can you hear that in the piece where your mood and your emotions link to this idea of the storm of like being kind of, I don't know, I guess you would link it to being maybe angry or something very powerful. Did you put that in the composition then?
Interestingly, no, actually I didn't.
Or was
I
it like a
more
peaceful, like the other side, more just like...
Yeah, because I mean, a storm, like especially in Iceland, like the weather changes every 5 minutes,
Okay.
like especially in the wintertime. All of a sudden, it can be like super beautiful, like northern lights, and like 5 minutes later, it's like raging storm. But I think I connected my emotional state more, and it was a storm outside. So like the storm was like driving my creativity, if you could say so. But it's a very like quiet, like very melancholic piece in D minor, and I think that sort of influenced my first album, which is called Belur, which means it translates as a snowstorm or a whiteout. So that sort of initial idea planted the seed for the future.
Very interesting. I find it really like I get really passionate nowadays to understand the conception behind the compositions and as interprets, because at first I studied just performing music as a classical musician, and I recently started to ask myself, well, what if I would compose? And actually, this idea of composing has come more and more into my everyday life, and I've started to compose, and it's a very interesting process. I find that switch actually from playing pieces that were written for you to actually finding that emotional connection, and being able to put that in the music. And I found it incredible the way you say that you link that to kind of what was happening outside, but also directly linked to your emotions. Um, I also read something very interesting where you mentioned about the creative process that sometimes when you were composing, there were some questions that could come up to you, questions that you would have never asked yourself before, but that would come at these moments. Could you share maybe one with us that came up to your mind recently in a recent composition?
Absolutely. Yeah, goodness. It's sort of like the way of like composing and being like myself with the piano, like from when I started to write music. It sort of felt always like a therapy session for me, without maybe like realizing it. It's just like giving myself a time to like connect with yourself internally, and like how do you feel, and is there anything you want to like tell yourself even. So there's definitely a moment, I think, after. So I'd been living in New York from 2015 till
Okay. Were you
2020.
studying there?
I was just working in the
Okay.
fashion industry.
Okay.
And at that time, when I was living in New York, I was in a pretty challenging relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But I decided that I wanted to go back into music, and that's how I'm here right now. But my first album, there was a piece called Brotin, which translates as broken in English, and it's sort of about like just this like depth of like heartbreak. You're like literally broken to the core, and I wasn't able to finish the piece, so I moved away from New York, ended my past relationship, but I didn't know how I felt about it. Like it was so like sudden, and it was very like fresh in the memory and fresh in the soul. And it was just the night before I recorded the first piece, or Brotin, where I actually felt like a resolution towards the piece, and like how I felt about this relationship ending, like a big part of my life. And so I felt incredibly like liberated to be able to have that sort of realization for myself. And that's how the piece, like just the night before I recorded it. So
You finally found the resolution to the piece.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so I have a few questions about this. So firstly, you said the piano is like therapy for you, or your music is like therapy. So in what way does it heal you? Like what does it do to you to heal? Does it heal you?
I feel that way.
Yeah.
I truly do. It heals me. I feel like it's in different ways, because how I try to compose music, or not how to try, but how it just comes out. It can be a very positive emotion, like just the love of your life, or like how you feel about your family or about your home country, and then just like the darkest of moments in your life. And having that sort of like therapy element is that I myself personally have gone through therapy sessions, which have definitely been helpful. And I sort of like connect that with, you just come out of the session like, I didn't know I felt that way. I didn't know I had that realization, or like that sort of perspective towards an emotion or an experience. And writing and playing music helps me to sort of connect with myself without like knowing where I'm going. It's just like comes in mysterious ways.
Okay. 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 Yeah. I see. I see that. So actually, on a lighter, I guess on a lighter note, but actually it made me think when you said about the breakup and how you wrote a music about it. So it made me think about Taylor Swift. And I was like, are you like her? Like, did you compose something after, like, around your relationships a lot? Or was it this one time that really marked you? Or was it like a subject that came back into your life in terms of the composition life? Like, have you written quite a little bit about this part of yourself, this personal life?
Yes, in some ways. I think my first album, Bilur, it had like some elements. I was still in the relationship and I was writing the music and I didn't know. I was sort of like, I had blocked myself emotionally, and finding out like how I actually felt post breakup. A lot of the songs helped me to heal. I haven't had a breakup since, so I haven't written.
I haven't written anything.
No breakup songs. I'm very happy in my relationship right now.
So you can be happy in your relationship and still have things
Dramatic.
to write about, right?
Exactly. Yeah, goodness. Yeah, sort of have been looking like towards the past in a way, and like healing some like sort of that inner child in a way, and healing those elements. But I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, and my next question actually is because you mentioned something about working in the fashion industry. Now, obviously, that's kind of sparked my interest because I've done a little bit in fashion, and that's always been like a side of myself. Actually, I struggle to um, put forward because of the classical music world and the way it is, and the way you can be judged by being different or by doing things that are outside of this typical classical music bubble. So I was really interested to hear your story around this. I mean, you said, so you moved to New York, you actually worked full time in the fashion industry and then came to music?
Yeah, so I started in my dream in 2013 was to actually go and study in Vienna to get my bachelor's degree then. So I'd got my grade A levels in Iceland. And I just finished actually a masterclass at the Mozarteum in Salzburg the same summer. And my teacher, who is incredible, she's the mother of, do you know Víkingur Ólafsson, the Icelandic? Yeah, she's his mother, like a super, super lovely soul. And she was always like my number one fan, like, oh, you should go to Austria and get your degree. And after my experience in Mozarteum, I just decided to actually try something completely different. I was 19 years old.
How did it come about? I mean, you had always this love for fashion, or how did you?
I had been modeling a little bit since I was 14 in Iceland, like these like local campaigns, but there was never like, this is what I want to do in my life. It was always going to be music. But because I'd been writing since I was 7, and after being at the Mozarteum, like just to be completely honest, I always like looked down on myself compared to the other pianists, because there are so many incredible pianists in the world. And I was like, wow, I have to really go so far if I want to do this as a professional musician. And I just realized this isn't actually my calling to be like in the classical world, like core classical. I love the music and I love, the people and all my experiences. But I got the offer to work with Elite London. And a week later, basically, I moved to London and was like, I'm going to try something completely different. And what I wanted to do was basically always like work on music. So wherever I lived. So after my like first 2 weeks in London, I called my teacher Svana and I was like, I don't know where I miss it so much. I don't know like where I can go and find a grand piano, or like what I should do. She was like, it will come to you. She's a very like spiritual person. And I was walking home from a job one night in my street, and I heard some like beautiful like Mozart sonata like played on the piano. I was like, oh my God.
Where does it come
What's
from?
that? And I saw outside is this really incredibly sweet old man, like in his 80s, who was a music teacher. He was playing Mozart. And I was like, this is my piano. It was like 2 blocks away from where I lived. And
when you knocked and
I knocked. I was like, hi, I just moved to London. I'm from Iceland. Can I play your piano? And And he was like, goodness, yes, lovely to meet you. Like this wonderful old man. And we just became really good friends. I met him like every week, and he used to give me tea and biscuits, and I used to like play pieces too. Very British. And because he was a professor, like a teacher, we were just discussing a lot of classical music. So that like gave me sort of like the support net that I needed to move to London.
Mm-hmm.
And in every city that I lived in ever since, I was all across Europe. I was in South Africa, Australia, and then LA and New York. I always had to find... Yeah. And I always just had to find a piano. So doing that as a job, it was, it's just a job, It's not like a career in that sense. But I always knew that I wanted to go back to music, and which I was able to do in New York.
Yeah. And then in New York, you had this realization. And actually, so in a way, could we say that it was your personal life that actually brought you back to music in a way? Because you ended that relationship and you went back to Iceland, and then did you go into music? You kind of left the fashion industry and go into music then?
It was actually in 2017. I wasn't ready to like fully leave behind the fashion industry because it was a sustainable job for me. So I got in touch with my dear friend, who is now my manager, Nick, and just sent him a message. And a few days later, we had a catch up, and he was like, "Yeah, let's work on this together. It's really exciting." Got my first gig in Iceland in 2018, and then there was an A&R from Sony Masterworks, Dirk Lange, who now works for Rice Music, and he was the first person who came to me after the show. I was like so nervous. I was like, gosh, I'm playing my own music for the first time live.
I was like incredible.
I was like shaking.
Yeah.
And I was like, gosh, I need to like go and have a glass of wine or something after the show. And the first person like, Eydís, hi. And the rest is history after that. But yeah, I think the main thing, so I moved back to Iceland because of COVID. So during the pandemic in like May 2020, and that was when it properly started for me to be like in Iceland. It's such an incredible scene, like the artist scene there and musicians. So that's when everything changed, really.
And it kind of actually, when we think what you said about the Vienna school that you went to, and how you had this feeling of, oh, this was not my calling. Do you feel that there could be a way that these music schools could try and show us that there are different ways? Because, I mean, it's on a personal experience, obviously, but I went to the Royal College of Music in London, and despite it being an incredible place to learn, of course, and to become a better musician, I felt exactly what you said about the fact that it seemed like we were all competing for that one same path. And actually what you've achieved today is incredible. I mean, you play your own music, you're really expressing yourself the way you want to, the way you have a career in the way that is you. And that's so incredible. And, when you think that maybe if you hadn't discovered that by yourself, this could have, in a way, gone to waste. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, it's an open question, but I would think that maybe we should expect from these schools to also open us to think, well, what do we want to do? What do we have to express? And maybe we all have a space here. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you feel about that.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I think there should be some sort of like a side... what do you call it? Side class, basically, a subject, or where there's just a teacher who is also like sees you for who you are.
Yeah.
For like no matter what your background is, where you're from, it's just about like what do you want? Like what do you see? Like how do you see yourself? Who do you want to be in 5 years? All of these questions we don't get in the classical industry. And to actually adapt towards that, like, oh, you're actually composing. Goodness, okay, there's a compositional class that we really want you to be a part of, or you want to be a public speaker about classical music. Like, however you go about it, I think there should be a side subject about that. But also, I feel like it's about there could be more like a stronger network about the like the business side of things.
Yeah.
It's like, how are you going to sustain yourself
Yeah.
post-education? It's like, what are you going to, how can you do it,
Yeah.
basically? So I think there should be more classes about that, 100%.
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree with that. I think both sides. I think the idea of having somebody or class to help you discover who you are, and also just generally be encouraged by that. Because actually, I read something that I thought was brilliant that you said about how you also in composition, talking about composition, but I think you can apply that to general life. How you shouldn't be scared to sometimes be ridiculous yourself, to do things without thinking about other people judgments, or to accept the fact that something that you might try for the first time is going to be bad. Like, you're going to compose your first melody and it's not going to be the greatest, but you just have to go and do it. And I found that really a really nice way to go about it, because a lot of people, I think in our industry, sometimes are, and and I understand, way too scared of what people might think, of what the judgment would be, because it's true, there is, and I think we have to be honest, there is judgment, of course, as soon as you kind of step out of the very classical, typical path of things, and the way things work, there is going to be judgment, and generally in life, when you do something different, anyway, there is. So it was interesting to hear how do you cope, for example, when you try something out of the norm, or you try something for the first time, as you say, and you say to yourself, okay, that's fine, doesn't matter if people laugh, I'll try it. How'd you deal with that?
Ah, goodness, good question, actually. I think the most, like, to start with, the most liberating thing of doing your own music versus like when I was studying is that nobody can actually tell you how it's meant to be.
That's
like,
incredible. That's a good one to push people to compose.
Yeah, right.
That would have convinced me.
And that was so liberating. I was like, gosh, I don't have like any voices behind my head like saying this is
like
terrible.
The ghost
like
of Mozart telling you this is not the way you should play it.
Exactly. I was like, gosh, I can just do how I feel per day. And that was like how I built that foundation of just recording my first album. And here at Sony, they were like, just wonderful, and like so excited to hear more. And I was like, gosh, this is really like positive feedback.
Yeah.
This is nice. I like this. And like playing live as well, like, because I mean, especially for us women, like we like go through our hormonal changes every month.
Yeah.
So like, despite how you're feeling every day, it doesn't have to change your performance. You just adapt to how you're feeling per each day. And I try to be super like,
I never thought of that.
Yeah, I try to be super like mindful. Like if I'm feeling like blue or like low or something, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna give myself more time to like allow myself to feel whatever I'm feeling, basically. And I meditate a lot. I do a lot of yoga, and it's all about like listening to just your inner self, and like that it's okay to feel like blue every now and then. And however you're feeling, is just to like embrace that, and that nothing is wrong, basically. If it's like writing a new melody or playing live, and it's just about like listening to your inner self.
And I really never thought of it that way. It's a very interesting angle. And actually, jumping on this, so I asked myself this question recently. I don't have the answer, but I was curious to hear yours. Obviously today we talk more and more about women and female composers generally that we rediscover, that we didn't know of. And there's this whole movement, which is amazing, that, bringing back all these names that we didn't know. So, and we have basically, so this whole part of history that has been missing, that we are rediscovering. And I was wondering, do you think there is such thing as different ways of writing, or energy that you might feel when you listen to the music, feminine or masculine?
100%.
Yeah.
I really do feel that way. It's just that sort of like that feminine element. It's just like more like not fragile, but it's more like gentle and more soft. Versus the masculine, of course, having all of the strong like hormonal changes. Yeah, I think it's so fascinating. I mean, I love that you're doing like an album on just like female composers, and I truly feel so honored to be a part of that. I feel like that sort of like feminine energy is also very understanding. like sort of listening, and sort of maybe giving a little bit more space for expression. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
So I definitely feel a difference of like the masculine and the feminine side of that, and I love that we're embracing that tomorrow.
Yeah, same here. I think I really wanted this idea of kind of bringing talking about the album, like going back in the years, like from the first composer that I'm including in the album is dates from the Middle Age and up to working with you today and embracing that whole side. And the question came, and I was wondering because it I don't know. Obviously, I'm sure everybody has a different opinion about it, and it's a very open question. And I guess it can be nearly a political one to say about feminine and masculine energy. But it it's nearly. I felt like, have we literally been listening, like when we talk about classical composers, and we've only listened to men, right? And have we basically just been listening to one type of energy? Have we basically been missing like all this other side, like yin and yang and all this other side, and we just now rediscovering it, but in a way it's, when actually should be complementary. So it's an interesting way to look at things. Yeah.
Goodness, 100%. I recently became an ambassador for Donne in the UK.
Yeah.
This is celebrating female composers. This is a wonderful society. And I think the recent statistics show that it's about like 95 or 6%, which is like in like all the orchestras around the world is played by men, like male composers.
Male composers, yeah.
I was like, gosh, that's such a...
It's quite shocking when you...
It is.
When you look at it. And this is getting better. This is like the improvement.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, 4%.
Yes. Yeah. No, exactly. So, so hopefully it's nice also, I think, to, so there's two things. I think there's indeed this other type of energy that we have, this other type of expression, as you said. I think this allowing for more somehow. And of course it's very personal, but for more expression, everything that you said about how you feel and the kind of sometimes how it might change during the month and all these emotional changes and stuff. And also I think what I love, for example, about the podcast that I do and generally working and collaborating with other women is that often I felt in competition with other women in a way that it feels like that's how we should see each other. And I guess you could relate to that also in the fashion industry, of course, but this idea of like any other woman in the industry being competition instead of feeling like a community.
Exactly. Embracing each other.
Exactly. And again, we come back to like each having, like we can each exist because we're so different. We have so many different things to say, but actually we can also bring things to each other. And what I love about, chatting, that's why I said, like, this is not an interview, this is a chat, is because it feels like we can exchange and we can create, in a way, like, this sense of community, which feels really needed today. Also, I think if we want to make things change, to feel like we're not alone in there, and to talk about these things and to talk openly about these things feels, I don't know, for me, it felt liberating anyway.
It absolutely is liberating, and I completely agree. It's more of that needed in our society, and also just for like the younger generations to come, is to actually have like a leading female figure in whatever like field you are in, just to have more of it around and like to inspire. I think it's very important.
Yeah. Okay, I wanted to talk, I mean, again, fashion industry, but also you on stage, right? And my first question is, have you felt, and it's a very broad question, so, feel free to go any way you want with that question, but do you feel free to wear whatever you want? Let it be on stage, in interviews. Have you always felt free, or have you kind of struggled to fit in a certain mold or fit in a certain box ever?
Very good question. I felt that way in the fashion industry. Is basically, I mean, when you go to castings and such, you have to literally present yourself in the way that is adjustable for all these different markets. So it's completely changed of being like my own person on stage, because it's yourself. You're not like the phase of representing another
Yeah, because of course you change your look every time for someone, and
like adjusting and to that. So I felt actually very liberated to be able to like, how do I feel today? Do I want to wear a dress? Do I just want to wear like really like cozy pants and like a t-shirt? Yeah, I want to do that today. So I was like, I don't really care about like how I look on stage. Like, sure, I like to, do the makeup and like feel good about myself. But in the end of the day, it's like not that I have to wear like high heels and like a cocktail dress to be able to present myself on stage. And I felt that's so liberating. And like for interviews, I don't really mind. Like I'm just like, this is how I feel today. Great. It's like,
it feels like you have a real great connection with yourself and with what's inside you. And I think it feels like composing also, I guess, has helped, and maybe your connection with nature and stuff. But it's really nice to get this feeling of just of real connection, I guess, between with what's inside you. And sometimes with all the other voices around, it can be hard to find that, to like actually be able to listen to the voice that's inside you and make sure that's the strongest one versus all the other ones.
Exactly, because there's always going to be so many cooks in the kitchen. Like there's always somebody going to be like telling you, I think this is better. Like this looks better on you. It's like, okay. But you know the best yourself, like how you feel and like what suits you and like what colors and such. So it's all about how you feel. And sure, we can take in and acknowledge the other people around us, because of course they mean well. But in the end of the day, it's about how you want to feel on stage. And
okay, and I'll finish with one question then, which is my favorite actually. I love to ask this question, and I always kind of turn it in different ways. But generally, sometimes when we are little, especially little girls, we have a dream of what we want to be later in life, right?
That's so sweet.
And and sometimes I look back, for example, at my 10 years old self and think, what would I think of me today? If I, looked at that woman when I was 10 years old, would I be, what would I say to her? Would I be happy? Would I say like, oh, actually, you should remember what you thought when you were 10, what your dreams are, or what do you think the 10 years old you would say if she saw you today?
It's actually quite funny. I saw we were going through like these Super 8 videos.
Yeah.
It's like these family like VHS and such. We're going through that like a few months ago, the family. And I found a little clip of myself when I was 8 years old. It's like, Eydís, what do you want to become when you're like an adult? It's like an artist.
I love it.
So I think my 10-year-old self would be quite happy to see that actually fulfilling that dream and like that passion.
Yeah. Amazing. Thank you for that answer, and thank you for sharing all of this. It was a pleasure to speak to you. I can't wait to record with you and play with you tomorrow.
Goodness, me too. So exciting. Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.